This is Aphelios at full power.
That play was disgusting.
What the fuck? I own
Yo, I'm Hallow. I've got over 1,500,000 mastery on Aphelios. I've hit masters with just Aphelios, and today I'm giving you the only Aphelios guide you'll ever need. For simplicity, we're gonna refer to each gun by its color. Crescendum is white, Severum is red, etc. Gun rotation is actually relatively simple if you follow these 3 steps. First, get rid of red. Second, always get rid of the oldest gun in your inventory. And finally, keep white in between red and green in the gun order. Let's go through an example. As always, we start with green and red, so let's follow rule 1 and get rid of red. Now we follow rule 2 and get rid of the oldest gun in our inventory, which is green. Now we just continue following rule 2 until we get to red-white. This is where we have to consider rule 3. To get white in between red and green in our gun order, we have to ignore rule 2 and burn red even though white is the older gun. This is the only deviation in rule 2, so don't worry, after we get white in between green and red, we can just go back to following rule 2 like normal. If your gun rotation is messed up, just make sure you follow rule 3 and put white in between green and red, and then it'll fix itself. If you guys want me to go over other variants that more experienced Aphelios players may use, I can do that in a later video. Aphelios' gun swap animation takes approximately 0.25 seconds. This is about how long it takes for Talon to one-shot you.
You have been slain.
If you want to maximize your damage output when fights are close, you need to learn to cancel animations in 3 main ways. First is by auto-attacking. This method is more difficult the less attack speed you have, but effectively you just need to time your swap with your auto-attack. So just W and then auto-attack as fast as you can right after. Now let's look at the effects of good animation cancelling. We can also just cast our ultimate while we're swapping guns to replace the gun swapping animation with the ultimate animation. This is really important for when you want to catch your opponents off guard with the next gun you have in order, as they can only see the indicators for your current 2 guns, so we can hide what ultimate we're going to use, and we can also max our DPS. The Q ability of Aphelios does act as an auto attack reset, so if you want to maximize your damage, you need to weave in autos in between your Qs and ults. Now this chapter is going to be a long one, but I'm effectively just going to go over every single gun combo that you should get if you followed the gun rotation I just went over. I'm going to focus more on last hit gun combos, which is basically just when one of your guns has less than 10 ammo, and then you switch to the next one and do a combo with that. We start with red-green, which doesn't have much synergy. All you need to know is that level 2, this is a very bursty combo if you can layer your Qs. Calibrum is the only Aphelios gun where you can flash after you've queued to change the direction of your Q. This last hit combo is great for setting up a free route, and using that route you can then land an easy Calibrum Q. You need to be aware of this last hit combo in lane if you're trying to help your support or jungle get a free engage, or if you just want to chunk them out a little bit. If you can hit your Q and your ult, you also get 2 guaranteed auto attacks, allowing you to get long range snipes like this one. For this combo, make sure that you consume your Q mark before your ult mark lands, otherwise they might cancel. This last hit combo isn't too strong, but all you need to know is that if you're consuming a caliber mark, you hit with whatever your offhand weapon is. So we can swap to Gravitum here if we want to hit with Infernum instead. Blue-purple is a really strong combo for AoE and wave clear. You can blue Q and then swap in purple Q to root several enemies or take out the entire minion wave really quickly. This is also the combo you see in all of the Riot 200 Years Aphelios compilation videos, so take notes if you want to hit clips. Keep in mind that blue Q's range is slightly longer than your auto attack range, so this could save you from using flash when chasing a 1 HP kill. Now this is what I call the kill combo. It's probably the most important last hit combo in the laning phase. When you have less than 10 ammo on blue and red is next, you Q the minion wave to get as many chakrams as possible. Then immediately red Q to stack even more chakrams, and use the movement speed to get up close and personal to the enemy bot lane, starting the fight with around 10 chakrams typically. This combo almost always gets me a kill in the early game, so make sure you tell your support in jungle and get them ready for the fight. Now red-white's probably one of the most famous combos in the game with Aphelios. There's the saying, red white don't fight. Basically you just want to use red Q to stack chakrams before the fight starts, and then use those chakrams to out DPS your opponent at melee range. Also, little tip, you can place down white turret to block thresh hooks or pike hooks. Now this is what I call the objective rush combo. So when you have red on its last tick, you want to red Q the objective or scuttle crab, just anything in the area where you can stack chakrams off of it. And then you're just going to place white Q and use those marks to basically melt the objective in record time. Keep in mind that when your turret dies, you need to green Q the objective to keep your chakram stacks. So if you're looking to rush the objective, or if you guys just have control over the objective, you want to make sure that you're getting this last hit combo ready right before any big objective spawns. So keep that in mind with your gun rotation during the game. You can use this combo to do Baron from outside of the pit as well, however you will need someone in there tanking or aggroing it so that it doesn't heal. Also, this gun combo is one of the best for just holding vision and objective control, so you want to place turrets in bushes like this leading up to any objectives, and you can basically kill anybody that face checks them. This last hit combo allows you to root whoever walks into your turret, and then you can land a nice Calibrim Q or ult or even both. Now, this is one of the strongest general gun combos for late game teamfighting and survivability. You have the AoE from Infernum and the healing from Severum. The great thing about this combo is that if you blue Q a stacked minion wave or raptors, you apply Severum's healing passive to each target hit, effectively healing your whole HP bar. Another important tip, especially if you have a high attack speed, is that you don't want to do a last tick swap on 2 guns in a single fight. You don't want to have 10 ammo or less on 2 guns at the same time, as usually this will waste too much time during a team fight. Unless you have perfect play, you're going to waste too much time swapping, and in the late game, it can take just a second to decide a team fight. These are the runes I generally go. PTA is the strongest for laning, but if you're in a really hard lane, you can go Fleet for more sustain, movement speed, and scaling. Generally, I just go PTA regardless. Absorb Life is the best for sustain here, but if you're in a situation where your team looks really weak and you can tell you're just going to 1v9 damage-wise, you can go Triumph. I do this occasionally, but Absorb Life is typically better. These runes stay the same. You can swap out Sorcery for Inspiration just because of Cosmic Insight if you're in a game where you really think you need your flash. You can go Boots or Biscuit secondary, but Cosmic Insight is very good on Aphelios. For the rest, I usually keep it the same, but for health, sometimes I change it to the higher base one in the early game if you're against a lane bully like Draven or Caitlyn or something. But yeah, other than that, I keep the rest of it the same. In terms of your build, you typically want to lean towards either Collector or Yuntal first. I almost always just go Collector here because I think it's easier to play Aphelios as a lethality AD based caster these days rather than just going full attack speed with Yuntal. Yuntal is a good item if you just want to scale and do front to backs and need the attack speed, but 90% of your games you're just going to be going collector. You start collector, always go berserker's greaves of course, and now IE second is necessary. You have to go with this, otherwise you just don't hit hard enough in the mid game. Now this is where there's a lot of personal decisions here. I really like just going Phantom Dancer here, even though a lot of people don't, just to make up for the lack of attack speed if I go collector IE. But of course you can go Runons as well, and I think this is just a nice cheap zeal item for you to get early. And I usually do this only if I'm ahead. Now if you're behind, of course you're gonna go some sort of armor penetration item, so Mortal Reminder if they've got a lot of healing, and LDR if you just need straight damage. So yeah, for third you either go one of the armor pen items or one of the zeal items. After that, it's really up to you depending on the game. So typically I'll get these 4 items first, but if I was in a game where I just needed to do a lot of damage and they had a lot of burst, I could go you know, LDR and shield bow for example. This is also fine. All that's really important is that you get IE second, some sort of armor penetration, and the other 2 items can really be customized. It's not that important, depends on the game you're in. But yeah, I mean if they have a lot of spellcasters like Lux or Morgana for example, you could also prioritize a zeal item for movement speed. There's plenty of options you can go here, but let's say I just do my my default build, Phantom Dancer LDR. Now for your last item, again, I do really like going Bloodthirster Lost. I just feel like it gives you so much more survivability and healing. But of course you can also go GA, or sometimes if you need you can go Mercurial Scimitar for QSS. Alright, so here's the tier list I just made for all of the ADC matchups in this season. I can go more into depth in a follow-up video explaining every choice I made, but for now the general consensus is that if they have some form of bursting you down before you can kill them, or blocking auto attacks, it's a really hard matchup for us, especially if they are a lane bully like Draven or Caitlyn. And if they take a while to scale and they're not too strong in lane, then it's usually Aphelios' favorite. Aphelios is so versatile. He's kind of in a role where he's better in lane than the scalers, but worse than the lane bullies. He's kind of in the middle. There's a lot of matchups that are skill matchups, but generally speaking, it's almost always winnable unless it's Nyla or Twitch. Twitch is fine in lane, but if you don't have exhaust or a good support to CC him as soon as he appears out of nowhere, especially in low elo where you don't have great vision control, you're gonna die before you can kill him. It's a similar thing with Nyla. If she blocks your first few auto attacks in a 1v1 or skirmish, you can't really survive her burst in time. Of course though, if your team plays around you and doesn't get one shot, it's always winnable, but this tier list is more focused on the actual one-on-one or skirmish focused engagement against these champions as Aphelios. Now here's a support tier list I've made mostly based on my experience with these champions historically rather than the current meta, but the general consensus is that enchanters or supports that can give you a lot of shielding, healing, peeling, and especially mobility like Thresh, Tahm Kench, Milio, Renata, these are the best supports for Aphelios. Approved. The champs that are mostly damage focused or heavy on roaming are horrible for Aphelios in lane. Honestly, as Aphelios, you just have enough damage for the team. You just need someone to peel you and prevent the enemy from capitalizing on your squishy HP bar and lack of mobility. So champs like Bard, these are horrible with Aphelios. Same with Brand, same with Pyke, but all of the champions here in S and A tier are really great for laning and team fights with Aphelios. Now, in terms of team comp synergy, Aphelios is a champion that, although he has all sorts of versatility with AoE, DPS, healing, range, etc., the one thing he lacks is mobility. So if you're going against an enemy team with a lot of dive and mobility that can get on top of you easily, it's really hard for you. If the team locks in champions like Kayn, Camille, Talon, etc., it's just not a good day for us. It's still winnable, but the worst thing is when they lock in champions you can't auto attack, so champs like Jax, Nyla, Akali, etc. Aphelios is just too squishy to wait out their dodge or shroud abilities, so we can't survive their burst in time. Ideally, a good team for Aphelios has a lot of tanks and not too much AD, as you already have enough AD yourself. Ideally, you'd have some sort of enchanter or appealing support, and some sort of AP mid laner, maybe with an Ornn or tanky CC jungle as well. This season, Aphelios isn't really that much of an auto attacker, he's more of a caster, so as a result we max Q for attack damage, then we max E for lethality, and lastly we max W for attack speed, as it's just not as important anymore. Aphelios' laning has changed quite a lot over the years, but these days he's pretty strong early game. Statistically, most Aphelios players do end up down in golden lane, so I'll touch on how to play when you're ahead and when you're behind. If you're winning lane hard, maybe even getting a kill or two, you want to prioritize building more damage, so aim for a Dirk and boots back, or a pickaxe for example. The goal is to snowball by building collector as soon as possible, and getting more kills on our champ. Now, if you're losing lane or you're against a boring, uninteractive lane with no real gameplay, the best thing to do is to rush boots or a cull, and play to sustain and eventually outscale the enemy champion. The general thought process of an Aphelios main in lane should be something like this as you go through the guns. Level 1, you play to poke with Calibrim and heal off the wave with Severin. Level 2, you look for a bursty trade with red Q into Calibrim Q, getting 2 autos off from range. When you have the last tick combo from red to purple, you land a root with red Q and then follow up with green Q again, landing a big trade. Then you play safe at range or look to set up a double root for your jungler to gank and play respectfully until you get the kill combo. Once we have the kill combo, as long as we don't get engaged on first or CC'd, we will almost always win the 2v2, so please don't play afraid. As an Aphelios main, I'm used to high pressure situations in the late game. What took me from gold to masters in one season was following these 5 rules in the late game. Firstly, pay attention to important enemy cooldowns and stand out of vision or at least behind teammates until their cooldowns are all blown. Secondly, never overchase or follow enemies into areas without vision. Thirdly, sometimes it's better to use ult and only hit one than to die with ult ready while waiting for the perfect angle. Fourth, always prioritize flash and its cooldown. If there's no objective up, sometimes it's better to die in the fight 2 minutes before the objective than to use flash and only get 1 extra kill, then end up having no flash for the important elder fight. And finally, always keep midway pushed in so you can play around vision for objectives and let them come into you. As well as following these general rules, we also have to prioritize and rotate to the correct guns depending on the fight. In order, the strongest guns in the late game are Infernum, Crescendum, Severum, Calibrum, and then Gravitum. Of course, all these guns have their different uses, but typically you will need to have some combination of Infernum or Crescendum alongside another gun if you want ideal damage output in the late game teamfight. This varies a lot based on the team comp. For example, if the enemy is extremely tanky, you may prioritize Crescendum more. If the enemy is squishy, you might need Infernum to try and one-shot them. If the enemies are poke heavy, you might need Severum the most for healing and movement speed, etc. It all varies depending on the game. It's your responsibility to be aware of what gun you will need for each upcoming fight, and to rotate your guns accordingly. Also, a big mistake that I see a lot of Aphelios players doing before a big objective or team fight like Elder, Baron, Dragon Soul, if you have extra money in your inventory, it is worth it to just buy an elixir for 500 gold. You should spend your money and be as strong as possible. You now know more about Aphelios than 99% of players. If you have any questions I didn't answer in this video, please leave a comment. I will respond very quickly. I have no life. Let me know if there's any videos you guys want to see. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.